Good morning, everybody. So it's the 2nd now, and I wanted to just read you a chapter from Life Strategies by Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil is a bit of a hero of mine. He is amazing, and he's one of the driving forces behind me wanting to do this life overhaul. I've found him to be an amazing inspiration. So I just want to read you a passage from this book. And it really is going to set the tone for everything that we're going to do throughout the month. And it underpins everything. So basically, Dr. Phil has life laws that he goes through in this book. And I will go through them all as we continue. But this one in particular, I think, underpins absolutely everything that we're going to do. So, his life lesson number 4. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Get real with yourself about your life and everybody in it. Be truthful about what isn't working in your life and stop making excuses and start making results. Perhaps this law, more than any other, seems self-evident, and to some degree it is. If you're unwilling to acknowledge a thought, circumstance, problem, condition, behaviour or emotion, if you won't take ownership of your role within the situation, then you cannot and you will not change it. If you refuse to acknowledge your own self-destructive behaviours, not only will they continue, but they will actually gain momentum and become more deeply entrenched in habitual patterns of your life and grow more and more resistant to change. Imagine your doctor is asking you whether you've been having dizzy spells. Rather than admitting it and you say, well, no, not really, what's going to happen? The doctor is not going to address the problem and you'll keep getting dizzy spells. He might treat you for a sore toe or an ache in your elbow, but because you have lied to him, you'll never get the real underlying problem dealt with. Because the doctor assumes that you're motivated to get better. He trusts you to identify your problems with him, so he'll know where to focus his efforts. You're very likely to believe that you can rely on yourself in a similar fashion. Just as the doctor depends on you being honest with him, you depend on yourself to shoot straight with yourself. However, often we have our own competing agendas. If by denying the existence of a problem, you reap apparent benefits for avoiding a painful subject, that makes you anything but a reliable informant. If you're hoping to have a winning life strategy, you must be honest with yourself and where your life is right now. So, I love that passage. There is more to it, but that's the general gist of it. And that's saying you cannot change what you're not willing to admit. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. So, for me, with my anxiety in particular, I used to deny how bad and how serious it could be. I used to be very good at masking, and it got to the point where I kept trying to run away from it and run away from it and run away from it, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until I eventually snapped. I wasn't trying to change it, I was trying to hide it. Now I felt like I really needed help and I really wanted someone to be there for me, but I wouldn't admit to that. So I couldn't change my situation, and that's what he's saying. And that's like anything in life. If you want to change something, you've got to acknowledge it first. You've got to acknowledge that it needs to be changed. You've got to recognise, your flaws or things that you need help with. Anything that you want to change in your life, is possible, but you have to acknowledge it first. And as I said, Dr. Phil is an absolute hero of mine. And I will continue with some of these life strategies and read you some more. But he's such a good example of he talks in such a plain fashion. He can come across quite forceful, but that's the style that I like. I don't like any of the, you know, the ornate language around anything. It's straight to the point. It's harsh sometimes, it's brutal sometimes, but it is the truth. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. So obviously throughout January I want to make a lot of changes, so I'm going to acknowledge a lot of things within me and my life and every aspect of my life that I want to change, and I'm acknowledging them, and I'm going to be doing something about them. And as I said, he is one of the main inspirations behind me wanting to make this change. So I'll leave you with that to think on it, and I will be back tomorrow with another video. Have a good one.